Krishna prastaya bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadini Pastyachadeshatarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pastyachadeshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. A little slower. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Madhava ki, Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, O Premanandi, O gloriously assembled devotees, O glorious Sri Guru and Gauranga, O glorious Srila Prabhupada, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gaudavani Pacharine Nevasesha Sanyavari Pastachari Shatai. Jai Prabhupada. Om Jnanatimarandasya Niranjana Shalakaya Chakshurnamilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Shvapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanta Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Today we're reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, the eternal nectarian pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. I don't know where we're reading from. Does anyone know?
Page 769.
The marker's on 687.
It's around that because this is a mobile phone version, so it's
different. But what's the first words?
On June 4.
Well, that's completely different to where the marker is. Completely different.
Maybe it's also.
So what should I do? This is, okay, there's something here on June the 4th. It says, before Srila Prabhupada's illness, the devotees have planned a big event in Tompkins Square Park.
We stopped at a big letter, very big letter.
Okay.
Prabhupada wrote for the audience of the festival.
Okay, so that the marker's here. So last week you finished off on thank you very much and God bless you. The last words of Prabhupada's, words, I suppose. Thank you very much and God bless you. Okay. Hare Krishna. And then we're reading now from, I don't know what date we're on, but here we are. Prabhupada is eager to leave the hospital. Right?
He's saying that we did not read the letter.
Well, the big words were Hare Krishna is in big capitals. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But you didn't read that?
We didn't read the letter. Someone stopped the letter because it says
There's two letters. There's one, my dear young beautiful boys and girls of America.
This one.
You read that?
No, we didn't read it. Someone stopped it.
Someone stopped us. I'm sure they had good reasons to stop. So we're reading then from that letter of Srila Prabhupada. And this letter is in reference to, I don't know what it's in reference to. On June the 4th, several hundred people gathered around the band shell in Tompkins Square Park, while the devotees played harmonium, kartals, and madungas, and chanted Hare Krishna over the PA system. Many people in the crowd chanted along, playing their own instruments and even joining the devotees on stage. Kirtanananda stood before the microphone and announced that Bhaktivedanta Swami, although ill at Beth Israel Hospital, had prepared a message for everyone. Many among the Lower East Side crowd were acquainted with Bhaktivedanta Swami and his chanting of Hare Krishna. They listened as Kirtanananda read the message. This is 1967, Tompkins Square Park. Almost at this time, we're on June the 9th. So this is June the 4th, is it? Yeah, June the 4th. So more or less at the same time of the year. Srila Prabhupada had started this kirtan program in Tompkins Square Park in 1966, or sometime in early October actually, 66. And of course during the winter, as far as I know, they did not continue with this program, but they're doing it again now. And Prabhupada said practically his movement began, of course we could say it began earlier, but practically Prabhupada said it really began when they went to Tompkins Square Park. Many young seekers, young people, various, let's say, beliefs or the various lifestyles were gathered in that park, and so many of them became interested in Krishna consciousness. So this is Prabhupada's message to them. My dear young beautiful boys and girls of America, I have come to your country with great hope and a great mission. My spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribhajakacharya Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, quite a long title there, asked me to preach the cult of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Western world. This was the seed-giving incident. Now imagine there's a group of people gathered, I don't know how many, gathered there in the park, and there'll be quite a lot. I was looking at pictures yesterday, you saw those pictures, some of 1976. And we were in Ireland with Gurudas Swami, those days Swami, on a traveling bus program. Somebody had gotten those pictures from somewhere, never seen before. And you know, when we were there doing Harinam, or giving us a talk even on Harinam, hundreds and hundreds of people gathered around. The whole street is packed with people listening to the devotees doing kirtan on the street. There was a time when people just did. It was very novel. It was very unusual. Now people are, I don't know what they're doing, but they're not very often doing that. They're absorbed in themselves or something. I don't know what they're doing. But here in Tompkins Square Park also, many people are gathered around to listen, what is going on here. And Srila Prabhupada pretty much introduces them in brief, you could say, to quite a, what can you say, subject matter which they're not familiar with. Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. If you came for the first time, what would you make of that? Or, his divine Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. It's quite a title, isn't it? And you're just like, whatever you are, newcomer or just somebody hanging around in the park. And Prabhupada says then he was given this mission to preach Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings in the Western world. That was the seed-giving instant. Gradually the seed fructified, and I was prepared to come to the Western world. Still, I do not know why I was so much attracted by the land of America. But from within, Krishna dictated that instead of going to Europe, I should better go to America. So you can see that I have come to your country under order of superior authority. And even after arriving here, when I perceive that some of the youngsters are being misled, confused and frustrated, this is not the condition of your country only, but in every country the young people are neglected, although it is they who are the flower and future hope of everyone. So I thought to myself that if I go to the American youth with my message, and they join with me in this movement, then it will spread all over the world, and then all the problems of the world will be solved. How I would like to be with you in person today, but Krishna has prevented that. So please pardon me and accept my blessings in this written form. Beautiful. This process of Sankirtan, this singing and dancing, is so nice, because from the very beginning it places everyone on the spiritual platform. There are different platforms or levels of our existence. The bodily platform, the mental platform, the intellectual platform, and the spiritual platform. When you stand on the spiritual platform, then all the problems created by the necessities of the body, mind, intellect, and ego become solved. Therefore, I appeal to you to join this movement most seriously. The process is very simple. We ask everyone to come join with us in chanting. Hear something of the philosophy of life taught by Lord Krishna. Take a little prasadam, foodstuffs, that is prepared and offered to the Lord, and peacefully with refreshed mind go home. That is our mission. We do have certain restrictions. Practically they are not restrictions, but something better in place of something inferior. The other day, Mr. Alan Burke questioned me on his television program. Swamiji, why do you insist on marriage? And I answered him, unless one becomes peaceful in home life, how can he make any advance in any other area of life or knowledge? Therefore, everyone should get married just to be happy and peaceful. There you go. You are all beautiful, nice, educated boys and girls. Why shouldn't you get married and live happily? If you live peacefully regulated lives, eating nothing, oh, sorry, there's another line here. Eating nothing but Krishna prasadam, then the tissues in your brain will develop for spiritual consciousness and understanding. That's what Gopaswami Prabhu said a few weeks ago. Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said we should give up all eating. Stop eating altogether if you want to become Krishna conscious. Huh? You have to stop eating. Save a lot of time and money. Right? Yes, he said, yeah. Well, yes, maybe, maybe not. But what does it mean? He said you have to honor prasadam. Just prasadam. So Prabhupada is saying here, eat. He uses the word eat, obviously, here. Eat nothing but Krishna prasadam. Then the tissues in your brain will develop for spiritual consciousness and understanding. However, if you are not agreeable to these simple restrictions, still I request you to join the chanting with us. Everybody can do that, and that will gradually clarify everything, and all problems will be solved. And you will find a new chapter of your life. Just this week I have received a letter from a girl in New Jersey who has had such an experience. She writes, so this is a letter within a letter now. So Prabhupada is writing this, put this letter within his letter to the young people in Tompkins Square Park. So this is the girl's letter. You don't know me by name, but I am the girl who joined your parade in Washington Square this past Saturday. When I first saw your group, I thought you were all crazy, which is probably what most people think when they see us. Many devotees also had that experience when they first saw the Hare Krishnas. Either that or you're on some dope or something. Dope means drugs, if you don't know what it means, specifically marijuana. After listening and talking with some of you, I realized that it was neither of those. You people plainly believed in what you were doing, and I admired you for that much. But my curiosity drove me further, and I had to find out why. So I followed you, and as I did, the chant you sang began to take hold. The next thing I knew, I felt free of myself, and I was singing too. I didn't know where I was or where I was going, but I was too elated to care. It wasn't until we stopped that I learned where I was. By that time, I had picked up bits and pieces of what Krishna consciousness was about. One of your members asked me to visit your temple, and I followed you still further, hoping to discover just what it was that made you feel so strong about something I'd never heard of. After having taken a meal with you and reading your literature, I left, but not alone. I took with me a new awareness of life. It occurred to me how futile my desires for the material things in life were, that a new dress or big house or color television were not important. If only people would open their eyes to the endless number of pleasures God has already given us, there will be no need for looking any further. You people are truly lucky. You may have had to do without many things, but because of this you are able to enjoy the simple, God-given treasures of the world. Because of your beliefs, you are the wealthy, and I thank you for sharing a bit of that wealth with me. Nice letter. Huh? Do you get letters like that still? Maybe I don't see the letters, so I don't know. Maybe they still do. From our volunteers, yeah. This is goes from a girl on the street who saw the devotees on the street. So we invite you to please chant with us. Prabhupada carries on now with his message. So we invite you to please chant with us. It is such a nice thing. Come to our temple if you like, take a little prasadam, and be happy. It is not very difficult. If you just chant this, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That will save you. Thank you very much, and God bless you. A beautiful message from Srila Prabhupada. His heart was for everyone. Not everyone took it, but he was offering it. Srila Prabhupada was eager to leave the hospital.
Yeah, it's for everyone, but he's specifically addressing the young people, young boys and girls.
Yeah, beautiful boys and girls of America.
So, is it still the same thing? Are we addressing mainly the young people today?
Well, they were in the park, of course. They were mostly young people in the park. But are we mainly addressing the young people today? Well, some of you are still young. Well, yes and no, I would say there. Those young people, I noticed, I can't say in the last 5 or 10 years, but I noticed when I was traveling around Australia and New Zealand, and at that time some of us were arranging public programs. Going to public programs, they were kind of open programs. They weren't sort of specific. They were open programs. You know, they weren't like a yoga club or anything like that. And most of the people who came were elderly. And most of those elderly persons were the young people at this time. They were the youth of the 70s. They were now in their 60s, and they're retiring. And they were, you know, the seed was in there. When Prabhupada started, no one had the seed. Prabhupada was planting seeds, and you generally, it's hard to plant seeds in a big patch of weeds. And most people's hearts are full of, elderly people that is we're talking, not all, of course not, but most are full of conceptions, full of already commitments, full of, you know, they're not open to new ideas so much. Young people are open to new seeds, much more, generally speaking. Yeah, so that was definitely in the 60s, that was the case completely. And in many ways it's still the same thing, but you find a lot, and a heck of a lot of persons in middle age, old age, the seeds are already there. The seeds of, you know, Krishna conscious seeds are already there. They weren't there in the 60s when Prabhupada was there, not at all. Completely foreign, absolutely foreign. It was totally like from another planet, you could say. So it's not so much like that, although it's still to a degree, of course, because obviously people who've chosen to live their life in a very materialistic way or dogmatic way or another way of some kind or another are a little bit stuck in their ways, you know, a bit dried up in their senses, a little difficult to put the seed in there, a little difficult for them to cultivate or for the seed to fructify. But it's much, I would say, much more open in that sense. Not so much in the curiosity sense as it was in the 60s and 70s. People were just mesmerized by the, you know, the uniqueness, you could say. It wasn't the philosophy so much. They would mostly argue with the philosophy, actually. Most of the people we meet would challenge it. You don't get so much of that now either. Not, you know, people don't challenge it so much. And you probably had the same thing here in France, I'm sure, when you were a young devotee in the 70s. You get a lot of people challenging you. And still goes on, but not nearly as much for whatever reason. No, but then it was like that. So most of them, I remember being surrounded by people, just distributing books, like 50, 60 people, all challenge you all at once, you know. You're in the middle on your own trying to distribute books, and surrounded by challengers. But Prabhupada here also, in a sense, he's like diving straight in, like shooting for the rhino or something. You know, but some persons amongst those will definitely, it will set, the heart will hold it, will take it. It's relevant to all, but they will take it. And usually young people are more, as Prabhupada would always say, you know, education is mostly when you're young, mostly. So yes, to a large degree, that's likely to be easier, more appropriate. The young persons are more likely to accept new ideas or something fresh, like Krishna consciousness is still pretty much unknown to people in general, even if they know Hare Krishna, they know the members of the Hare Krishna, what they look like and so on, but they don't really understand what's behind it. Like this girl, she wanted to find out what's behind it, not just what's on the surface. So a little harder usually for old people to dig that far, but it's by no means exclusive. And as we mentioned, many of those old people now already have the seed in their hearts. They were exposed to it 50 years ago. So many. It's a surprise. So many of them. They knew Hare Krishna through George Harrison, through seeing the devotees on the streets or at festivals, going to the temple, going to the restaurant. So many. And you see that now, so many of them. And many of them still continue to do so. You know, go to the restaurant or whatever. And some of them are, you know, kind of sympathetic. Maybe they've added a little bit of Krishna consciousness to their lives. A little bit open, but generally young people is the fact. That's why we like students. You know, preaching to students is still probably the most, you know, I don't know if it's most emphasized, but it's certainly the most effective. I'm seeing in New Zealand, in London also now, they have programs which are, you've seen in mostly young people, isn't it? In the Bhakti Lounge in Wellington. They have a very nice program there, very, very nice, tailored towards anybody, of course, but it's more the young people who come, more the young people. They get how many people on? Before COVID, it was more. I think it's still come up again now after COVID or not? I don't know. 100 or 200.
Maybe 100.
Yeah, sometimes more. I mean, I've been there with more than that in the years gone by. At least 100 young people, all new or regulars, kind of new regulars, so to speak, not full-time devotees, not congregation, and all Westerners. They have another program for the Indian community, but this is especially for the Western community. If the young Indian students come, fantastic, but mostly for the young students, the young people who come. And the whole program, we're not getting into all the details. And the same in London. They choose their location if they can, somewhere not too far away from, you know, the people you're trying to communicate with. Because in New Zealand the cities are small and it's much more economic. In Wellington, they're right in the city centre, and beautiful place, made very nice, comfortable facility, relaxed. And Prabhupada in Second Avenue in those days, Prabhupada, you know, we don't know what was in our heart, you could say. We can only see what we saw. But in the beginning, of course, as Prabhupada said here, if you're not attracted to these principles, never mind, come and chant with us anyway. It wasn't like, you know, all or nothing. It's somehow or another come along, take part, connect. In the very, very early year or two, there were no deity worship, of course, for the year or two. Deity worship started in ISKCON in one sense in San Francisco in 1967. And that was super simple. Really simple. I don't know what it was like when you joined Gopaswami Prabhupada. When I joined, it was still pretty simple. Pretty simple, very simple. Jagannath deities installed in London were dressed once a week. You know, there was no bathing ceremonies, there were no mantras and, you know, all these things. Super simple. The morning deity worship took maximum 40 minutes, maximum. Everyone would sit in front of the deities chanting japa up until 6:30. Then the curtains would close, and I don't know what they did. They just changed the dresses. I think that's all they did. I was never in there to see exactly what they did, but it didn't take long. 2 pujaras went in and did it, and out they came. And they would be on Harinam regularly as well. It was a very simple program. 7-8 hours a day on the street, chanting Hare Krishna. It was a whole different world in those days, you could say. ISKCON was very temple-oriented. There wasn't any farms or restaurants or anything else. No, a few kids, but very few. And deity worship was there, and Radha Lindeshwar were installed by Prabhupada, and Jagannath, everything was installed by Prabhupada. And they were the first Radha Krishna deities installed in London, big ones. So it was different focus. The focus was here, and In one sense, I think one thing we have to remember is the same thing is still there today. It's not the whole movement has transcended that principle. Yes, we should be maturing and advancing. So deity worship is obviously, matured in so many ways. But that doesn't mean that new people are on that level. They're not. They're on the same level as they were in 1966. And the same method that Prabhupada employed in 66 is the method that will capture the same mentality, the same level of maturity, you could say. We shouldn't forget that and think that, now everybody, the whole world should be on this level now, including newcomers. They're not. And that sometimes, therefore, you leave people behind. They're left outside of the, circle. But Prabhupada didn't do that. He introduced things as the devotees became a little mature, but preaching to newcomers still remains the same, and maybe details may vary, but the principle's the same as it was in 66. And that's the success we see in Wellington. They have deities in the center, Mantra Lounge?
They do, but they don't open the deities to
That's just for the devotees, basically speaking. Yeah. They don't have deity worship for the public. They don't have any, Om Jnana Timirandasya, sit properly, please. Timirandasya, I told you, sit properly. Don't put your feet towards the altar. Om Jnana, oh dear. Will you please go outside? You're smelling. Om Jnana Timirandasya. Girls that side, boys that side, don't you know anything? God dear, this is a temple. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana. God dear. What are we going to do with these people? You're useless. Kirtan. It's kind of, sometimes mentality is a little like that. It's a bit exaggerated, but I've seen it. I've seen these things, Don't wear your shoes there. Don't go there. Don't touch that. That wasn't Prabhupada's mood in the beginning days, It's a little intelligent. It's not just kind of sincerity, but as Prabhupada said, there has to be some intelligence there as well. What will attract a living entity towards Krishna? That's the whole point of preaching. Whatever it is we're doing, even the prasadam, we've got to think of more than just doing it and just getting a job done. We've got to think what the point of what we're doing is. What is the purpose? Huh? What is the purpose behind it? What's the purpose of Lord Chaitanya's movement? Is that right? No, I think so. Sometimes people criticize techniques of preaching and whatever, but I was talking to Lilamrita Maharaj one time, and because he gets a lot of flack for the style that he has of preaching. I looked at the underlying type of, the details are different, there's no doubt, than what they were in 66. They had different facility, they dressed differently, whatever. But I said, it seems to me that this is very much like the similar kind of mood that Prabhupada had, with some, different coating, different wrapper, but the same principle that Prabhupada in 66, he started laughing his head off. He said, exactly, that's the whole idea, is to actually, know what bait catches people. Maybe 50 years ago, a particular type of bait caught people. You have to, a little adjustment sometimes, but the principle is the same. What works? Maybe for Indian people, that's different. That type of preaching doesn't work. Where are the deities? Where are the rituals? Where are the yagyas? Their mentality is different, you know. It's a mixture of that and social kind of interaction amongst themselves, like a different world there. Oh, there's overlapping, but generally speaking, that's there. You know. Westerners are not generally into that so much. Only when they mature. Deity worship is, for some, of course, but for many, it's kind of like, and that you know, it's like not a barrier exactly, but it's something you have to unnecessarily try to justify. What is this idol worship, they say? What is this? Then you have to go into a whole thing, and you can bet your boots that half the audience are thinking one way and the other half is thinking the other. You've immediately created an unnecessary kind of obstacle. Immediately. Not necessary. Get them to do what will purify the heart. Chant Hare Krishna and take prasadam. Weird other things will come. That was the mood we had in the beginning anyway. I don't know how you feel now.
Also new people, young people now, they are more attracted to a natural way of life.
Environment, yes, so that's fact. That's a fact of life. There was more revolution in the 66. Revolution. Tear down the society. Huh? Now that's not so much the case. It's established more of a harmony with nature and environmental. You have to bear that in mind. And that's why you've got this project here, as far as preaching goes. There are other reasons, but preaching-wise, that's why it's here. It's supposed to be an environmental example, not just a place to hang out. It is meant to be an example of that, with Krishna in the center. I was thinking the other day, when Namacharya announced the hay collecting, huh? And then the big tractor comes along with making all the bales. And I was thinking, if we were really a community, every one of us would be out there working together and tying it up ourselves. If you had to tie it up, you know, like they did in the old days. The bales wouldn't be square boxes, they'd be like tied in the middle, coming out at the end. You see the old pictures. We'd all be out there. I mean, of course, if you're very old, you might just be out there chanting, or you might be out there, you know, wrapping something up. The kids would be out there, everyone would be out there. The whole community would be out there. That was the mood in 66. Was not, I didn't join then, in 71, but that was the mood. Every single devotee in the temple did everything. When there was something to do, everyone did it. I mean, not specific things like deity worship or cooking, but Harinam Sankirtan, cleaning, things like that, you know. Everyone did it. It was a community. To some degree, it's still there, but not the same. It's just nice. It's a nice way of bringing that unity and diversity. And for sure, I mean, farms are farms. Is this a farm? Is it not a farm? I'll leave that to you to think about. But if it's a farm, it's a farm, and that means farming should be going on. That would be the main activity. If it's not, so be it. But if it is a farm, then it should be farming. And that's another topic. I think Prabhupada wanted farms to farm. Certainly in Vrindavan and Gita Nagari wanted farming going on. Because there were many hundreds of devotees were there at that time, so other things were going on too. Anyway, we better read on. I think the gist of it is effective preaching, what actually helps to attract people, and as you said, they're more into, you know, just like mice is trying to learn the science of permaculture. Permaculture, is that what it's called? What is it? Huh? Yeah, permaculture. Natural farming, traditional farming techniques. There are many different styles of that, different places. But natural farming, and devotees have introduced that. I saw, I don't know if it's still going on, but in New Vrindavan many years ago when I was there, one devotee, he'd started something simple like that, not exactly permaculture, but something like that, and he was preaching to people in all the local towns, and he got local towns to give land so that unemployed people could learn how to do this on the land within the city itself, like an allotments within the city, or land which has been not being used. And he was showing them how to grow things like that. Utilize the land. So much land is wasted, not being utilized. So much. One of the things, pardon?
Most of the family centers are vegan, not necessarily just the devotees.
Yeah, the devotees are not vegan, but they cater, because about 50% of the people, may be different in different countries and in different places, but in New Zealand, about 50% of the kids that come are vegan to the program. And I know in Brisbane, I don't know what it's like in Wellington, but when I was there at their equivalent loft program there, which I don't think exists anymore, I don't think they have that centre anymore, but maybe 10, 15 years ago they had one in Brisbane, and at least 25 of the youngsters were gay, at least 25%. So you've got to bear in mind what you're dealing with, not just ram it down their throats. That doesn't work. You've got to understand the condition of the individuals or the community, etc. That which works, that which is effective. That was Prabhupada's move, as far as I'm concerned. That which was effective. Not that which is effective over there, but that. And Prabhupada writes about that. It's in there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, talking about the rules and regulations. That may be appropriate in India, but it may not be appropriate here in India, in America, in the West. The guru has to be, the real guru is one who is able to achieve the same purpose, but adjust the details to achieve the goal of those rules and regulations. This is not the International Society for Rules and Regulations. This is the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. What helps a person to become Krishna conscious? Not me conscious, you conscious, us conscious, society conscious, but Krishna conscious, whatever that takes. And that may vary according to time, place, and circumstance. In fact, it does vary considerably between Africa, even today, between Africa, India, America, Russia. Everywhere has, there are differences there. But the guru has to make sure that the differences don't become the principal or objective purpose. They're only to achieve the purpose, becoming Krishna conscious. Everything else will follow. Unity in diversity. Krishna in the center. Srila Prabhupada was eager to leave the hospital. For several days he had wanted to go. They are simply sticking needles. This is what you're working on right now. He's working on this very subject right now. He complained. And each day was putting his society into further debt. They like to keep you in there, My mother, when she went to hospital in her last years, basically, I won't get into that, but anyway, practically all her money was spent, whatever savings she had. Everything went on hospital bills. Not on hospital, it was an old age hospice or something. Everything went. It all went. It just sucks everything. And of course, you have your welfare state here. In America, they don't have that system. Different systems, insurance in America, but the boys didn't have any. So probably a foreigner, he didn't have any insurance. So money. Many things have become businesses now. Medical business, education business. Education business is really big, really big. And then the devotees rented a small house, seaside house in Long Branch, New Jersey. I didn't go to the house because I didn't know where it was, but I went to that place where they rented the house, just to get the feeling of the atmosphere that Prabhupada was there, beach resort, where Prabhupada could go to recuperate. Kirtananda, they decided, would be Prabhupada's cook. And Gaur Sundar and his wife Govinda Dasi were arriving from San Francisco to do the housekeeping, and help. But the doctor wanted Prabhupada to stay for another brainwave test and more observation. And they, according to Garganmuni, they wanted to take something out of his brain. They wanted to extract something. I don't know if it's true or not. If you want to read more about it, read a book called Garganmuni. It's a kind of a Garganmuni Prabhu's remembrances of Srila Prabhupada and his relationship, so to speak. Fascinating book. One day while Brahmananda and Gargamuni were visiting Prabhupada, the doctor entered and announced that the Swami would have to go downstairs for an X-ray. No needle, Prabhupada asked. Yes, yes, the doctor replied, it's all right. When the nurse brought in a bed on wheels, Prabhupada said he wanted Gargamuni to push it. He then sat on it cross-legged and put his hand in his bead bag, and Gargamuni, following the nurse, wheeled him out the door, down the hall and onto the elevator. They went down to the 3rd floor and entered a room. The nurse left them alone. Gargamuni could sense Prabhupada's uneasiness. He was also nervous. It was such an unlikely place for him to be with his spiritual master. Then a different nurse entered with a needle. Time to give the Swami a little injection. No, Prabhupada shook his head. I'm sorry, Gargamuni said flatly, we're not going to do it. The nurse was exasperated but smiled. It won't hurt. Take me back, Prabhupada ordered Gargamuni. When the nurse insisted, Gargamuni acted rashly, his usual tendency, and stepped between the nurse and Srila Prabhupada. I'm ready to fight if I have to, Gargamuni thought. I won't let you do it, he said, and wheeled the bed out of the room, leaving the nurse behind. Gargamuni was lost. He was somewhere on the 3rd or 4th floor, faced with corridors and doors, and Prabhupada's room was on the 6th floor. Unsure where he was going, Gargamuni wheeled through the corridors with Prabhupada sitting cross-legged, chanting on his beads. Brahmananda arrived at the X-ray lab seconds after Gargamuni's escape. The nurse and an intern complained to him about what had happened. Brahmananda, they considered this a theft. Swamiji was their property as long as he was in the hospital. He was theirs to do whatever they pleased with. Gargamuni had stolen Swamiji away from them. Gargamuni got to the elevator. He had difficulty maneuvering the bed and in his haste bumped it into the wall. He forgot what floor Swamiji was on. He only knew that he was protecting Swamiji, who wanted to be taken away. When Gargamuni finally reached Prabhupada's room, 607, an intern was there and spoke angrily. I don't care, Gargamuni said. He doesn't want any more needles or tests. We want to leave. Brahmananda arrived, calmed his younger brother, and helped Prabhupada back into bed. Prabhupada said he wanted to leave. When the doctor came in, Prabhupada sat up and spoke decisively. Doctor, I am all right. I can go. And he shook the doctor's hand to show him he was hale and hearty. The doctor chuckled. He said that although Swamiji was getting stronger, he would have to stay for a few more days. He was by no means out of danger yet. He required careful medical surveillance. They needed to run the other electroencephalogram. You know what that is? God, that's a long word. Wires and stuff. That's it. They still got them, huh? Phew. Srila Prabhupada didn't want that. Still had pains around his heart, but he told the doctor his boys had a place for him to rest by the seaside. This was very good, the doctor said, but he couldn't let his patient go just yet. But Prabhupada had made up his mind. Brahmananda and Gargamuni arranged for a rented car. They gathered Prabhupada's things and helped him dress. As they escorted him out of the room, and the hospital staff saw that the boys were actually taking the old man away, some of the doctors and nurses tried to stop them. Brahmananda told them not to worry. Swamiji was very dear to them, and they would take good care of him. He would get regular massages and plenty of rest, and they would get him whatever medicines the doctors prescribed. After a rest by the seaside, he could come back for a checkup. I think we just finished this little pastime. There's only another one paragraph. Brahmananda. Then the doctors became fed up. They threatened us. This man is going to die. They really scared us, they said. This man is going to die and it is going to be your fault. Even as we left, they said, this man is condemned to death, they were saying. Threatening, huh? Heavy threats. I don't think, I don't know if you can still talk like that, but I doubt it. It was horrible. At 10 a.m. on June the 8th, they left the hospital. Prabhupada wanted to stop briefly at the temple at 26 2nd Avenue before going to the house in Long Branch. Entering the storefront, walking shakily, he came before the portraits of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and his spiritual master's father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. For the first time, Prabhupada's disciples saw him offer fully prostrated obeisances. As he prostrated himself before his Guru Maharaj, his disciples also paid obeisances and felt their devotion increase. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So that was Prabhupada's hospital pastime. Quite something, huh? I mean, imagine if you weren't a devotee and you were a doctor, you would have probably been pretty freaked out too, huh? Right? You've seen it. Yeah. Brahmananda. And you know, strange. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna. Thank you for asking that question.
Similar story with the first wife of Nikolai Sundar, Talupini Mataji.
Oh, really?
She was in Bhubaneswar in a kind of, very small old hospital, and full of needles and things like that. And she just, took everything away. Just let me die peacefully, And she actually died peacefully. Right?
In Bhubaneswar?
Yes.
She left her body in Bhubaneswar?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, she was hospitalized. She had many hospitalizations. She was weak. But in Bhubaneswar, she became, it was getting the end. So he brought her to the hospital and she was attacked by his doctor. And she said, let me die, let me die peacefully. Took everything away.
That's Prabhupada's mood, huh? Surrounded by devotees in the holy name. Like Kadambakana Maharaj, he never took any Western medicine. Kadambakana Maharaj.
Yeah.
And he died so peacefully.
Yeah.
So peacefully. He stopped eating and drinking water. Yeah. And he just left surrounded by kirtana devotees. Smiling, peaceful looking face. Yeah. Hare Krishna. This is always a delicate balance, this one, isn't it? It's a very difficult one, extremely difficult.
Even Prabhupada himself, he left, peacefully around devotees, but before that he tried all kinds of different doctors, medicines, injections, surgery.
I'm not sure how many. Injections also? I don't know.
Yes.
Where?
Vaccine.
Did he take a vaccine?
Yes, not at the end, but before.
That's it. That was a debate.
Well, he took, I have to quote, careful.
Okay.
But it's just, in Prabhupada, devotee study of Prabhupada, maybe you should take, it looks like he was against the pneumopathy. It's like pneumocoque, And okay, all right.
He never went to hospital. He went once to hospital in London for 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. The only time, just a minor thing with urinary tract, very small.
And he said homeopathic is bogus.
Homeopathic? Homeopathic.
There's no, it's like no para. No.
Oh. He liked Ayurvedic. He always talked Ayurvedic. Brought up in that world. Although he was a pharmacist, he was selling allopathic medicines. He was a drug dealer. He used that also in his preaching, because most of his early students were drug takers. Some were drug dealers. And one said, Prabhupada, I was a drug dealer. And Prabhupada said, I was also a drug dealer. Swamiji? Swamiji was a drug dealer? Really? He's talking about we shouldn't take drugs, and he was a drug dealer? And Prabhupada said, and they asked, what does it mean, Prabhupada? I had a pharmacist. I was a pharmacist. I had selling drugs. They call it druggist sometimes. I've seen in some parts of the world it's actually called druggist. The drugstore. And it is, in one sense, it's the same principle, different purpose. So the real drug and the real medicine, Amala Harinam Amiyabilas, that's what Prabhupada really emphasized. No matter what was going on, he allowed his disciples to try different things, to try to, what we could say, try to, as a service to Prabhupada, he accepted various astrologers and various medicines and kavirajas and what have you, as a service. But the real point he mentioned was Amala Harinam Amiyabilas. This is our only real medicine, to chant the holy names. Okay, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Hare Krishna. Now you're going to take the medicine of Mahaprasad. Okay. Oh, he's only just walked in the door. You're not like he's not Indra. If it was Indra Prabhu, that would be the case. If you give a class in Vrindavan, Indra, generally, sometimes, but rarely would he be there in the class, but he'd be listening. They have a system of, what is it? I don't know what it's called, a special system there, that little radio, you tune in, FM or something, and you can hear the class from a distance, So we'd always listen to the class. And if he had anything to say, at the end of, okay, pros, any more questions? Srila Prabhupada, up! And then he would suddenly fly into the room, and he would immediately, straight in there, Oh. Madam Gopal wasn't listening to the whole class. Huh?
Not the whole class.
You were sitting around the corner? No. The last 2 minutes.
I heard 1 minute.
1 minute. There you go. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi.